Here we go here.
Hey, we're live.
Well, I'm going live here, man.
We live?
Yeah.
We live
yeah, we're good.
on the TikToks.
Yes, we are.
Okay. Good seeing you.
Good seeing you too, man.
Hello, all. Let's talk a little bit about lessons we have learned in the last couple years.
Okay.
Things that may have helped us in business or personal. Call them life lessons, if you will, or call them awakenings, or sometimes like moments like, oh, what the hell was I thinking? That kind of thing.
Yeah.
Just the last couple of years.
Okay.
Anything come to mind?
Yeah, I mean, Matt and I just recorded that podcast in the office today, and we talked about this.
I honestly did not
know. I know. I
had no idea that was what they were talking about.
Which is crazy, because he said, what are some of the lessons I've learned as an entrepreneur? And I said, honestly, there are two really, well, the biggest one was people don't think like me. And that was the hardest thing for me to realize, because I said to him, I said, most entrepreneurs, like, we don't think we're anything special. Like, I'm like, I don't think I'm anything special. I just think, okay, everybody thinks like this. This is what I see everybody should see. I've had to realize that even in the past 2 to 3 years running the firm, I'm running the firm for a reason, because I think a certain way. Most people don't think like I do, or don't see the world like I do. And that was the hardest thing for me to figure out, because I was always getting caught up in like, why don't you see it? This is so easy. Like, why can't you see the world like this? Why couldn't you see that problem coming? Why couldn't you anticipate this? But then I realized that, like, entrepreneurs are wired differently than other people. And that I struggled with that for a long time.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Because again, like when I don't think I do anything special. I just think I work hard. Like, I don't think I have superior skills or superior intellect, or
is it a desire thing?
What do you mean by that?
Well, you say there's no superior skills, you just think differently. Do you think it's a desire thing? Do you think you maybe want it more than the average Joe?
Well, I think wanting it's one thing, but I think you've got to have the risk tolerance for it.
Mm-hmm.
Like I knew when I was young that I had a high tolerance for risk, and that I wanted to do something myself. Like, I wanted to be on my own. I wanted to build a business, and so I always saw the world a little bit differently. I was never looking for the safe bet. I was never looking to find the job that kept me safe. Like, when I went to law school, I said law school was a means to an end. It gave me a profession that if the shit hit the fan, I could always make money.
Okay.
I had a license to print money. Like,
okay.
I had a law license, right? I could go out and hang my shingle and make money. So it allowed me to choose my path. I just ended up going, to a firm, and then in-house. Then I started the firm, when I left. But that was the biggest challenge for me, was just coming to the realization that the people that start businesses and run businesses are a lot different than the people that don't. And we just see the world differently. And if you don't realize that soon, it'll create a lot of unneeded tension in what you're doing. And that's what it was doing for me, because I would just get frustrated over things like, how didn't you see that? Why don't you think this way? Why don't you see it this way? I didn't think it was anything special. Like, everybody should see this. Working with Mike over the years and just other people I've worked with made me realize that, no, my name's on the wall for a reason.
Yeah. So would you say that going out and growing the firm and hiring people to work for the firm maybe has been an awakening in that regard? So
yeah.
That at that point, I would imagine, because not everybody can share your vision.
Right. Exactly. Well, and again, it's funny. We literally had this discussion too. Like, we went from me, and then me and Mia, then me and Matt. Now there's 10 people there. We have 10, which is crazy to think. It's like 10 employees now. Like, holy shit, that's a lot of people. And the biggest thing, when dealing with people is, one, you have all these different communication styles now. Like, when you have one employee, you have two ways of communicating: how I communicate and how you communicate. With 10 people, multiply that 10 times 10, or 10 times 10 times, like 1,000 different ways of communicating. So you've got to navigate that too. As the owner of the business, no one's going to care as much as me, right? I just have to figure out what they care about and get them to care about that as much as they can. That might be them caring about me or what I'm doing, but not the ultimate vision. It's kind of like this thing you have to piece together, because an employee coming out of law school compared to someone that's been practicing X amount of time or been in the workforce X amount of time, they see the world differently, right? you're coming out of school, you don't know what you don't know. You don't know what a vision is. Like, you're just looking for that job. Like, well, how do I be a lawyer? Someone's been practicing 5, 6, 7 years might think, okay, I know what being a lawyer is. What is the vision I've bought into now? Where are we taking this? And that's kind of where Matt was when he joined. Like, he wanted to be part of it. And he saw how he fit into it. And he's an integral piece of what we're building. And I think, he saw my vision. Now it's my job to get people to see either my vision or the vision they have for their career.
Okay.
And make sure they're achieving that. If that makes any sense.
Yeah, it does. All right. What else?
Lessons learned. I always have to answer the questions, but that's fine.
Of course.
It's hard, man. It's hard. Like when you start a business or run a business or manage people and clients, I thought it was going to be hard. Multiply that by 100. Like, it is literally the hardest thing the hardest thing I've ever done. Like, managing people, clients, a business, there are multiple pieces moving all hours of the day. And I feel like I'm a person that's standing there juggling everything. And if one ball falls, they all fall. So it is literally, like we were talking before the show about being on like how people are on high alert.
Mm-hmm.
I'm always on high alert. Like, I'm always juggling everything. I've just gotten very good at being able to see things and anticipate them. But that's been the hardest thing for me. Just the more people we hire, the more things we get into, the more I have to juggle. And I'm learning to delegate, but it's still a struggle for me.
On the people front,
mm-hmm.
your interaction with other people, besides understanding you can't expect them to have the same vision initially, what else have you learned?
About people in general?
Yeah, and anything like in dealing with people over the past couple of years has been like an aha moment, like, wow, I didn't see that prior.
They're all motivated differently. Everybody's motivated differently. And sometimes what you think they're motivated by is the complete opposite of what they are motivated by. Some people are motivated by money. Some are by recognition.
Do you think most people will tell you if you ask?
No, I don't think so. I think, and that's another thing I've learned. I think most people tell you what they think you want to hear when it comes to their motivation.
Okay.
I'd rather just be like, shoot straight with me. Like, if you're motivated by having time off or work-life balance, just say it. Like, cool. Like, that's your motivation. To me, I'm not motivated by money. I'm motivated by legacy, by building something that'll live on past me.
Right.
That's my motivation.
Right.
20 years ago, it might've been money. It might've been something different.
Sure.
And motivation changes over time. But I do think a lot of people won't necessarily tell you what truly motivates them. One, because maybe they don't think it's in their mind the right motivation or what you want to hear.
Okay.
That's definitely something I've learned. I've learned that the best way to understand people is just to observe, but not engage. Like, observe. Sometimes you just have to watch a room and watch people interact with other people, not engage, just kind of be the fly on the wall.
For sure. And
that's something because I'm an extrovert. So I like to be engaged with people. I like to talk to people. I've taught myself to slow down quite a bit when I'm with people and to just watch how they move, watch where they put their hands, their feet, how they position their body, the words they use, the inflection in their voice. And that'll tell me a lot of information. But I had to really slow myself down to understand that. And that's hard to do as an entrepreneur.
Certainly.
Our brains are moving 1,000 miles an hour all the time.
Yeah, and they don't shut off either.
No, I haven't figured out how to do it. I wish I had a switch that could do it.
Yeah, that's the one thing. That's I mean, don't get me wrong, creativity sometimes comes at the craziest hours, but for the most part, it's a double-edged sword.
Yeah. Yeah, there has not been, since I've started the firm, a day where I'm like, I can unplug. Like, true, like I can unplug, but I don't stop thinking about it. Like, there's always something on my mind. What can I be doing? What's the next move? Like, what is the next strategic thing we have to come up with?
Right.
And, that's just I think that's just part of the process and part of being an entrepreneur and business owner. If you turn it off, you may miss something.
Oh, certainly.
So it's kind of a, like you said, a double-edged sword.
It's funny. I think now that I'm part of this radio station and I'm now an employee, for part of my day.
Pickle Mick.
Yeah. Right. Pickle Man Mick. That's me. I'm starting to get that. It's starting to flow now. But I've had to understand this role and understand that I am not part of an organization. And I have not done that in 25 years.
Yeah. It's different.
I'm older. I've also have between the last time I did this in 99 and this time, not only am I older, but I have this swath of entrepreneurship in the middle of it.
Yeah. Yeah, you do.
And I didn't know how I was going to react to that. Honestly, I did not. I did not know if that would serve me or not, but it's ended up serving me because I think it's taught me patience. If I use it appropriately, but it's also taught me to observe, to, not have the final say.
Yeah.
Not open my mouth unnecessarily and just really understand my role and do the best I can in the role I am, but really don't give other unnecessary things emotional weight. And it has been fantastic. I didn't have that skill set in 99 and the years prior. I was a different person trying to be assertive and make sure I was noticed and, that whole corporate thing.
Yeah.
I don't have any of that this time. And it's just interesting to observe and watch and see things in other people that I was incapable of seeing in the 90s.
Yeah.
The last time I was in this environment.
I get that, man. I get that.
And I think it makes me a little wiser in this circumstance. And it gives me a different employee experience than I've had prior to.
Yeah.
It's different. It really is different and very much easier.
Okay. Interesting. Why do you say easier?
The things that were important in the 90s and where I fit in this company and what I needed to do to position myself to do this or that, or make sure I wasn't left out of this meeting or this group or whatever. Those were important things at a period in my life at that time in corporate America. Now, none of them hold any weight.
Yeah.
So when I look at the landscape now, I can see more clearly.
Yeah. It's interesting as you get older.
For sure.
Well, I think what's helped me most, like I said before, stoicism. Like understanding that has helped me tremendously in the business world because I don't care about things I can't control. Like I don't give it emotional energy.
Right.
So I tend to have more energy and I think more mental clarity on a day-to-day basis because I'm not diverting my attention to things that I can't control.
Right.
And when you do that, when you can detach from that, when you can detach from the things you can't control, then you save a lot of your emotional and mental energy.
No question.
To put towards things that actually matter, or you can actually impact.
Yeah, no question. And it's interesting too that what's really clear and apparent to me now when I get to know some of the players, to see, I'll be able to anticipate and predict behavior of others. It's fascinating.
Oh yeah.
It's fascinating, good and bad.
Yeah. I mean, human beings, I mean, truly, if you take the time to observe people, it's pretty easy to pick up patterns in behavior. Because there's not, I mean, you'll have an anomaly every once in a while, but I truly believe most human beings are wired pretty closely in line with one another. So if I've seen a behavior pattern in one person, I can spot it quickly in someone else.
Sure. Yeah. The one thing I haven't missed that is apparent, and with every organization, you have certain elements of self-preservation in a lot of people.
That's our government. And
it's and it just that some folks are dealing out of desperation all the time.
Yeah.
Paranoia. And it's, it's pretty, if you pay attention, it's really pretty apparent.
Well, and we were just talking about this in the office today, like the victim mentality now, like not with my employees, but just we were talking about like potential clients, like people I was talking to today. Just they could not accept the fact that they put themselves into the situation and were mad that I couldn't get them out of it. And it was a situation that could not be undone. It was like what they were complaining about was perfectly legitimate, what this person was doing, but they put themselves into a situation that was of their own doing.
Okay.
But would not take any responsibility for it. And it was the first time in probably my 20 years of practicing law where I felt myself getting, because I'm a very empathetic person, right? When I talk to people, I felt myself getting agitated, like visibly agitated. Like I felt it. Like I was, when I'm standing up in my office talking and walking around, you've triggered me a little bit. And I was trying to shoot straight with these people, but I'm like, you put yourself in the situation and you got to accept responsibility for that. And they would not. It was like, it's not our fault, it's this person's fault, it's this person. I'm like, no. And then at the end of the call, they were like, oh, we're just disappointed, we thought we were gonna have a better call, we were referred to you by someone. I'm like, yeah, like I'm not going to take your money to do something that's not going to get anything done. And two, I'm not going to bullshit you. I'm going to shoot straight with you, and everything you've told me is absolutely legitimate. So I'm sorry. Like it was kind of one of those moments where I was just like, yeah, like I get it, but there's a big problem, I think, in this country right now where people just don't want to take responsibility for their actions, and it's always someone else's fault, which blows my mind.
Yeah, it's an interesting part of the culture now.
It really is, because I feel like if you take responsibility for your actions, it's very easy to solve most situations. Because one, people are typically willing to help you.
Certainly.
If you say, yeah, I screwed up, this is totally my fault, like, is there anything we can do? Most people will try and help you if they can.
I think that's human nature.
It is human nature. But if you come to me and say, hey, this happened to me, yes, I did this, but it wasn't my fault. Yes, I did this, but it wasn't my fault.
Where does that come from?
I couldn't figure it out. Like I was stumped. I was literally stumped. It was probably the first time in my career where usually when I'm talking to someone on the phone, in the first 30 seconds to a minute, I have the person read. I was thrown off today, thrown off completely. I'm like, none of this makes sense. What's going on right now? Like none of it made sense to me. And then I took a step back. I'm like, it's because no one wants to take responsibility.
And how hard is it really? Like, what does it actually emotionally take to admit a mistake and try to move forward from it? Like the difference between that and go into denial mode. Like, how much more energy does it take to do one or the other? Probably not much.
Not much at all.
Just words.
It literally, it's the same amount of energy.
I mean, you would hope that they believe it, but in essence, it's just words. It's
just words. That's exactly right. And I think, again, people just have this victim mentality where it's not their fault. It's unfortunate because, I always want to try and help people, but if you're not willing to help yourself and there's nothing I can truly do, I'm not going to take somebody's money just to take their money. That's just not how I operate a business.
Yeah. Do you ever feel that you got a better understanding of humility now at the age that you do, the age that you are? Because I feel I've been really feeling that, not just this past year, with this new gig and all that, but just the last 5-7 years. I mean, humility finally started to embrace me, and I started to understand it and embrace it. And life got better for me.
Yeah.
On multiple levels. I wish I would have had that wisdom 20 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, hindsight's 20/20, right? When you're young, I don't even think we have the foresight to gain the wisdom, to even know it's there, right?
20 years ago, I was middle-aged.
Oh yeah, you were basically my age 20 years ago. But no, but I think about that would put me in my mid-20s, right? My mid to late 20s.
Yeah,
I didn't know my ass from a hole in the ground. I didn't know what humility was. Like, and again, like I think. I mean, how would you define humility? Let's start there. Like at the age you are today, how would you define humility?
A level of selflessness and a level of de-emphasizing my needs, especially in terms of a priority of order with other people.
Okay. I think those are fair ways to define it. I think it is a selflessness, right? Humility truly is a selflessness,
contriteness, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a huge fan of that word. I always say, like, you don't take yourselves too seriously. Like I always say, like, I know it can all be taken away tomorrow
in a minute.
And I appreciate all of it. And I have the humility to know that I didn't build this because I'm some extraordinary person. Like it can all be taken away tomorrow. And so I'm very thankful for what I have. I'm very thankful for the people I've surrounded myself with. And it is a selflessness. Like I live to serve my people. Like I tend to believe I'm a servant leader because I'll always take care of them before I take care of myself. Like I would forego any compensation benefits for years to ensure someone kept their job. That's just me. That's just who I am. So, but I've learned it over time as I've gotten older because you understand the importance of it.
Certainly.
When you're younger, you may not do that. You may not understand it.
Well, you're more self-centric, I think. No, there's
absolutely.
exceptions to every rule, right? But I think generally speaking, I think it's fair and probably safe to say that most people are more self-centric when they're younger.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you're egocentric by nature, human beings. And then when you're younger, you don't know how to counteract it. So you just embrace it. And then as you get older, I think if you choose the right path and you start really looking at the world the right way, you get away from that. Some people just double down on the egocentrism and they become, it's all about me. It's my world. You just live in it. Now those people are few and far between, but I see them out there a lot. Especially in the business world, the entrepreneur world. I think you'll find more of those types of people in the entrepreneur world than anywhere else,
because the arena gives them more opportunities to be that way.
Yeah, absolutely. Become self-promoters, become, very gregarious, and they lack the humility they once had. Maybe a little bit of success got to their head, and they think because they had success once, they'll always have success. Well, I look at it like, yeah, I got lucky getting here, and I put some work into it and figured some shit out, but it doesn't mean I'm gonna get lucky again.
That's exactly right. That's exactly
so I'm just I'm enjoying the ride and really putting all my heart and soul into it. But that doesn't mean I can do it again. I believe I have the skill sets to figure it out, but I don't bank on that. I'm not stupid enough to bank on that.
Yeah. It's funny. I had this crazy dichotomy now because now I have this group of people that I'm working with in this company, and I naturally compare these relationships, these work relationships and acquaintances, with what my experience has been the past 20 years, and there's not a lot of direct comparisons, because when I worked with fellow entrepreneurs, there was if it wasn't an understanding, there was some kind of workable like medium that we both were seeing the world with the same types of issues.
Okay.
And now I'm in a situation where things are more compartmentalized. I think an entrepreneur wears their business like a coat, right?
Yeah, I mean, yes.
And there's no hours, there's no things. Oftentimes don't fit into nice little boxes in their life.
No,
an employee generally has little boxes, right? And it's just interesting to see or be reacquainted with that type of mentality. I don't fit there. I don't belong there. I don't think I could ever give up entrepreneurship. I just couldn't do it. But it's interesting again to get a little taste of this.
Yeah.
And I can see why I left corporate America to become an entrepreneur, because I left that structure. Does that make any sense? Not that it's bad. It's just
not for you.
Different. To do it full time, all the time, 24/7. I could never return to it full time.
To be an employee like that, you have to be wired for safety. Or I don't want to say that, because again, there are extraordinary employees out there, but they're wired differently. I am a low C on the disc profile. So I basically throw caution to the wind.
No, I get that.
And that's why I am the way I am. That's why I do what I do. That's why I'm an entrepreneur, right? I don't want to work for someone else. Rules are merely suggestions.
Right.
But again, I think a lot of people aren't wired that way to see the world that way. And that comes back to my original point. Like, the biggest thing for me was realizing that in many aspects, people don't see the world like I see it.
Yeah, and to bridge on that, like what I noticed right away was, like, the first couple of weeks was I would see something procedurally that didn't make sense.
Yeah.
The way things were being done. And then I would ask why we do that.
Mm-hmm.
And you get answers, and people are answering you the best they can. They might
Yeah.
not have a direct answer. It might be a process that a lot of people probably aren't involved in.
Mm-hmm.
But in my prior life, when I saw something that didn't make sense, I just go fix it.
Yeah. Now there's bureaucracy.
I never gave it a thought. This is
Mhm.
wrong. This is wrong. This is inefficient. This is inefficient. I'm going to fix that
Mm-hmm.
and move on with my day.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's different now. This is an inefficiency that really I am not theoretically in a position to make the change.
And that's
Interesting.
but that's your company doing you a disservice then, because I believe, like, I look at how I run the firm. Like, if someone sees something needs fixed, fix it.
Yeah.
Like, I don't ever want to create a layer of bureaucracy where, hey, you work for me, you deal with a process, you can see what's broken in the process and how to make it more efficient. I'm not involved in the process at all. You should not have to come to me to fix it. Like, I want people to just take ownership, and then if it gets screwed up, we fix it. There's nothing to do.
Full disclosure, I'm probably not being fair. I don't profess to know anywhere near enough at this point in my jaunt there.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just funny is I have to tamp down my natural behavior to just go correct stuff.
Like,
you know what I mean? Or at least try anyways, because that's what entrepreneurship is. You're constantly putting out fires or looking for efficiencies or you're trying something different, right?
Mostly putting out fires. Like, I've realized
pretty much.
Like, I said, this year has been a dumpster fire for 6 months. It has just been. We talked about this yesterday. There has not been, actually, since probably last September of the firm, there hasn't been a month where I didn't have to eat shit at one point in the month because of something that went wrong.
No, I get that.
And like, and talking about what I've learned as an entrepreneur, like, that's part of it, man. Just the shit you're going to have to deal with that you don't even realize you're going to have to deal with, and the sheer toll it takes on you.
Yeah.
Like, that is, again, like, this quarter whooped my ass. Now I feel energized as shit right now going into this quarter. But if I look back at the second quarter of the year, like, it kicked me in the nuts.
Well, I'm sure, again, I can only speak from my journey.
Yeah.
But I'm sure you're going to probably relate to this, but it's one thing when you see the train coming and it's going to kill you or it's going to hurt. It's going to hurt.
Yeah.
But it's that train coming the other direction that you never saw.
Yeah. Yeah. That's exactly
and
right.
You never got a clue.
Yeah.
And when that hits you.
Yeah. Yes. That's the other thing too. If you're coming back to other lessons learned, entrepreneurship is a 24/7, 365. And it doesn't take a break so you can deal with other shit in your life.
No.
Like, when you have other things going on in your life, like health issues or relationship issues or just any issues in general, like with kids, with your brothers and sisters, significant others, the entrepreneur side doesn't say, oh, all the problems will pause so you can go deal with those problems. They just compound, and people don't realize that. Like, it's not something that I can just, or an entrepreneur can just come and be like, I'm going to just park this over here. I need a day or two. I need my mental health day to just relax. We don't get that. I don't get those days. Yeah. And that's okay. Like, that's what you sign up for.
Yeah, that's what you signed up for.
That's what I signed up for.
And
that's the trade-off.
And I always would think, there's other benefits to do with that.
Yeah. There's a big trade-off.
Offset. Yeah, for sure. But to your point though, it really comes down to what we've talked about many, many times is what type of life do you want to design for yourself?
Exactly. Yeah. It's about life design. You're exactly right. You're exactly right.
I mean, it's, and I was thinking today, is there like a hybrid of the two? Like, I think being a realtor might be,
I would agree,
somewhat kind of like a hybrid. I mean, we still have some organizational things we do with our brokerages and things, but in the end, we really don't report to anybody.
Yeah. And I look at, if you're talking about pure hybrid, there's got to be a component of that is compensation based. Do you know what I mean?
Sure.
Like, that's just part of, with a realtor, you're still purely commission based, right? So it's not necessarily a hybrid. I mean, there's just so many pieces to it, and I think it's just been like a really hard journey. Like if I keep coming back to it because, you know, that's the real lesson I've learned. Like it is just so hard.
So you're flying without a net.
You're flying without a net, without a parachute, without a map, and in a plane that may or may not work.
And no GPS.
No, like I mean, again, we were talking today. I said, yeah, I just jumped off when I left corporate America. I just jumped off a cliff. Like just jumped. Like,
I think that's the best way. I think I could say I did the same. And yeah. I think you
build it on the way down.
I think sometimes timidity will get you if you try to ease your way into things. You know, sometimes you got to pull the Band-Aid off and just go.
Yeah, I don't think there's any way to ease yourself into entrepreneurship.
I think people try though.
People try, but then they get frustrated because they're not successful because you have to just jump in the pool.
In.
Right. Yes. You have to just, because that's what I was, right? For years when I was in corporate America, I was doing things here and there and I'm like, oh, like hedging it. I would have never got here had I not just said, you know what? Fuck it. I am going to jump, and just jumped and just ran off the cliff and jumped. And then when I'm in the air, I'm like, oh, fuck, what did I do? How do I figure this out? And I just trusted my gut.
And at that moment, you will find out so much about yourself.
Oh, you found out a lot about yourself.
At that moment.
That is the moment where you realize who you are and what you're made of. And it is an ugly process.
Yeah, I remember my last day at the company called PageNet when I just decided to sell guitars full time on this internet thing. And coming home going, well, I made all this money part-time and I've got the books to show it and I know what I've done. I got a whole basement full of guitars to sell.
Yep.
But I'm not going to have that commission paycheck, my base and my commission check next week. It's no longer there.
Yeah.
And it was that moment like I really did it. And I was excited because I had a path and all that. But there was a moment I said, did I really think this through? Yeah, I thought this through. But did I really think this through? I mean, that's where the rubber meets the road.
Dude, I had so many of those moments. Where I was like, holy shit, what did I do? Like, did I make the right decision? But something kept keeping me on the path.
Yeah.
Because there were many times ready to give up. There were many. Yeah, dude.
Really?
I went from making good money, right? Multiple six figures, to literally starting at zero every month. I had to figure it out. I had, Gabe was about to go to college in a couple of years, 2 young daughters, household to support. Zero every month. Started at zero. I'm like, they don't teach you how to build a law firm in law school. There's no classes for it, right? I just purely, and again, I said this earlier today, I said, okay, what am I good at? I'm good at talking to people. I'm good at networking with people. Let me just start there. I just kept going out and meeting people and talking to people. And then it just snowballed. It's just, you have to just take the next step.
Right.
Like people get so caught up and think they have to have the whole plan figured out. Like there's that one quote, I can't remember what it says, but it talks about, it's like from a book, I think it's called The Boy, the Horse, and something. And it's like the boy and the horse are at the edge of the woods. And the boy says, I can't see the path. And the horse says, can you see the next step?
Right.
And it's like, just take that. And like, when I look back at where I, kind of my journey, that's all I really did. Like, I didn't have it figured out. Like, I left, I'm going to be a solo practitioner. Okay. What's the next step? Let me just get clients to pay my bills. And it's like, okay, got a couple bigger clients. Oh, we can have a couple more people here. And it just kept, I don't see the path. I can see pretty clearly where we're going, but 20 years from now, I can't see.
Right.
But it's just, I know the next step I need to take. And it's purely about just executing the next step. But there are moments where like I was tested, like wanted to quit, wanted to give up, wanted to go get a job.
I did not know that.
But something kept pushing me. Dude, so many sleepless nights. But something kept me going.
Yeah.
And it's just, and then here we are. Sometimes I look back, I'm like, I don't know how the fuck I got here, but I'm here. And cool. You just keep going now. There's no turning back now. There's no turning back.
Yeah. You reach that point where there's no quit. I remember when 9/11 happened, I had a really great run a couple years, but from the time I left corporate to 9/11, life was just, no concerns, no worries. And 9/11 happened, and it shook up the American economy for a little while, and then it
Okay.
came roaring back. But that year or so,
Yeah.
when I saw business just fall off, I'm like, oh, the world's a little unsteady. Maybe I should go get a job again. I
Mhm.
almost caved.
Yeah.
There was a part of me that almost gave into it.
Yeah. I mean, it's scary, man. Those moments, those I call them the dark moments.
Yeah.
The moments where you're really faced with a decision. Like I had a lot of like very vivid ones I remember. But there was always something that kept, like right when I was about to like say fuck it, like something happened.
Right.
Like that one story I told about, like when I went to the angel numbers, like I was at Gecko and my receipt came out to 777. One was like, that's an angel number, like that's important, like that means something. Like, and that was like literally, I was coming from a meeting that was just like it didn't go well. I'm like, I can't do this. I was literally at the point like I need to find a job. Like I was driving into Gecko, buying a protein bar and an energy drink, and I'm thinking to myself, like, what am I gonna fucking do? And that happened. It was like, okay, this is, and I just kept going. And that could have been a turning point.
Certainly.
Had that not happened, I might have just started looking for a job.
Certainly.
But there's all these little moments, and it's so hard, but it's so worth it in the end.
Oh yeah. I mean, again, it's easy to say it's worth it because it's worked out. I get that from my end too. But I mean, we have a right to say that.
Yeah.
We've earned that. But the point is, everybody's threshold is different.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You got to know what your threshold is.
Exactly.
That's the big question.
Exactly.
That's what you got to figure out. Like, what can you tolerate?
And that's an uncomfortable personal conversation.
Oh, you think? Yeah. I mean, you have to truly ask yourself, like, how much pain can I endure? Because that's really what it is. It's just the pain of, I don't want to say failure, but not figuring it out yet. And like for someone like me who was a smart kid,
there's some failure, and there could be perceived failure.
I hated it because I was a smart kid. Things came easy to me. Then I'm like, why can't I do this? I would have these moments from like, I can't understand.
Self-doubt.
So much self-doubt. Yes. It is. I still doubt myself to this day. Like there's still moments where I doubt
imposter
myself.
syndrome. Yeah,
absolutely. That doesn't go away. I just think you just build enough confidence in your own skill sets that I'm always like, I'll figure it out. I may not have the answer, but I know enough to figure it out.
Yeah, entrepreneurship taught me so many amazing like life lessons that like this podcast exists because I had the confidence to try something I had no experience in. This radio job currently that I have to be a morning DJ with absolutely no experience,
which I love. But
that, it's man. Just I'm going to figure it out.
Yeah,
like it's just, and that's not specific to me. That's just a mantra I think anyone can adopt. But if you are encountering something that overwhelms you, and believe me, this gig is overwhelming from day one, but every day is a little easier. I'm going to figure it out, and I am.
Now if you can go back 20 years and give yourself one piece of advice, life, business, whatever it is, what would it be? Like, through all the stuff we talked about, all you've been through, what would be that one piece of advice, not multiple, one?
Strategically, it would have been get good legal advice at the beginning of my entrepreneurial
shameless
journey.
Plug, appreciate it.
Yeah, that's we talked about that multiple
times.
I
know, I appreciate that.
That's a procedural thing.
Right. Yeah.
As speaking esoterically, is that a word?
Yeah.
I think just breathe and find humility and be a little kinder. Like if I embrace humility, had I been able to do that earlier and not make everything about immediacy and about being self-centric, I was just able to breathe and look at the bigger picture, I think my journey would be a lot different. I think I'd still be in the musical instrument business. I really believe that.
Okay. I like it.
Yeah. I mean, it's a little honest, but that's
what we need. We need more people to talk honestly about this stuff.
Oh, my biggest joke is that, we pay the wrong people to give motivational speeches.
Right.
We need people to come in there and tell other people how they had great opportunities and great things and messed it all up.
Yeah.
We need that kind of honesty.
Absolutely.
Because those types of lessons, I think, sometimes stick better with the audience.
Yeah, I mean, 100%. I think, and I've heard a lot. I've listened to people that talk like that, and those ones always resonate with me. The people that talk about the failures and the challenges and the obstacles, and I think when I look back at stuff that I've learned and kind of taking the same position, like I wish I would have told myself to fall in love with the process sooner. I was too concerned with the goal and the outcome. I was goal driven, right? I was.
It's interesting
because you think about when the time I was in law school, like I'm going to get out, I'm going to make money. I had these goals, like I had to acquire things. But if I would have just in my late 20s focused on the process of becoming the person to achieve the goals, I would have got there a lot faster. Because most people are focused so much on the goal, they're missing the process itself. I've just figured out over the past probably 5 years, getting really engaged. The goal is the byproduct of me becoming better.
Oh, 100%.
But I didn't know that when I was younger. Like that's something like if I could go back and tell my younger self, forget about the goals. Just be the best you can be and improve as much as you can every single day.
And at the moment you're in, be the best entrepreneur. Like for me, it would have been be the best guitar seller and the guitar designer that you can be at that moment. So you can be better the following moment. And the following moment. And I always looked ahead. I can't sit and say that I was driven by these lofty goals because I didn't believe all this shit was happening to me anyway. I couldn't believe it. But I was always thinking about the next project. Like I would do these 100 custom guitars and people are raving about them. The clients love them. We're getting paid. It's good. And I didn't internally take the joy. I was okay. Well, what's the next one? I was always on to the next one. And I think I robbed myself of some joy,
Oh, I know for certain I definitely did because it was all like I always used my car for example, like my SL, like that was my dream car, like in my 30s. And once I got it, I was like, oh, it's cool. Like I was like, what's next? And that's kind of when I'm like, okay, like I need to take a step back and really just stop and smell the roses and look at the ground taken.
Why do we do that?
I think that's just how entrepreneurs are wired, right? Like we're wired to conquer. Like we're hunters by nature. So it's not, and again, like that's part of the double-edged sword of falling in love with the process, right? Because the goal is the byproduct. So don't really like when you hit the goal, it's like, okay, what's next?
Okay.
So like that's part of that. By falling in love with the process, sometimes I miss the achievement piece of it. And that's that really that double-edged sword and that's why I tell myself I have to stop every once in a while and appreciate the ground taken.
No, I get that.
Yeah, that's hard to do.
I can relate to some of that. It's I can't tell you. Age brings reflection. Like I can, we've talked before. I can look around this room and see little moments. Did this and that. I remember that. That didn't work. So there's that. For me, selfishly, there's that. But I really wish I would have embraced humility at a younger age. I honestly can say that. I really, on many facets of my life.
Okay.
And success is like a drug, when you, and again, success is defined personally, right? Because what I viewed to be successful, other people might not have viewed no interest in it. But, but to define your efforts as being successful and then relishing in them and living in them for a while, it's like a drug. It's intoxicating.
Yeah, I think it can be if you let it be.
Certainly.
Right. A lot of people sometimes they let it get to their
was
head.
me.
Yeah. I mean, and look, we've all done it, right? There have been times where I've probably let it get to my head, but I think I almost go the opposite now. Like I'm almost the opposite. It's not a drug to me. It's like it wasn't anything. Like it's like this was nothing. Like I didn't do anything special. Yeah. And that's not a good way to look at it either.
No, and it's funny because for the times that I enjoyed all the money, the emotional component of like taking stock in the successes we had, I missed that sometimes. Like I got the money part, but I really didn't take stock in the business successes, the project successes,
look at
the
all the people you met.
opportunity weeks. Yeah. I mean, like I look at it now in amazement.
Yeah.
But while it was happening, it was like, what's the next thing? And we're talking about living in. I think I spent a good portion of my last 25 years on and off, like living on high alert. And I just am trying really hard not to live that way anymore. I don't think it's the greatest way to live.
No, prayer and meditation, man. Just do that. It slows you down. Like
medicine.
That too. But I think again, that's part of the human condition, right? We don't slow down.
Yeah.
We have and again, I mean, look at the world now compared to 20 years ago. It's so much faster. There's way more distractions. We get information and things at like record-breaking speeds now.
Right.
So it's hard I have to literally force myself to slow down.
Oh, certainly.
Because just the momentum I'm moving at is just, and I can, and that's as a leader, that's one of the biggest challenges for me, because if I don't slow myself down, I'll be too far out at sea where no one will be able to see me anymore. And then I'm not guiding anybody, or I'm not leading anybody because no one can even see me.
No, I get that.
So I have to sometimes stop myself and slow down, but that's hard to do.
I get that.
Journaling definitely helps, like prayer, meditation, those things all help me slow myself down.
Yeah, I mean, putting restraints or putting constraints, necessary constraints on oneself is not an easy thing.
No, because we're not wired that way.
No,
we're wired to be free. And I think when you start doing that to yourself, it's these self-inflicted constraints, I think, cause this cognitive dissonance in our heads. Like it's like, this is not how we're supposed to be. But you almost have to understand why you're doing it. And that's like when we talk about like how I try and be very intentional in things I'm doing. Like me slowing down is very intentional.
Certainly.
Because I know if I slow down, it'll lead to X, Y, or Z. There's a byproduct that's positive from me slowing myself down. But I had to become intentional about that to figure that out.
That's exactly right. And I think you recognize that through self-discovery.
Yeah, 100%.
It doesn't happen overnight.
No, you have to do the work. Yes. Most people don't want to do that work. The self-discovery work, I think, is the most important work you can do as a business owner, entrepreneur, even just a person in general. Also, the hardest work you'll do, and the one that people want to do the least.
Well, it only works if you're truly being honest with yourself.
Correct.
That's the problem.
People
can kid themselves into thinking that they're doing it, but if you're not honest with yourself,
right.
I mean,
right. Reading a personal development book and implementing a personal development book are two different things. Right? I can read it all I want, but I'm not going to do anything that it recommends. What's the point of even reading it? Right? It's the doing that matters.
That's why honest journaling kind of, for me, always solved the problem. Like once I realized once I realized when I was younger that writing and not being invested in that writing is an utter waste of time. But once I conditioned myself to realize if I'm going to write, I'm going to be invested, which means I'm going to be getting things down that are meaningful and impactful. Not that they all have equal amounts of gravity, but they're meaningful and impactful. Doing that and getting that habit started then made self-reflection, honest self-reflection, almost an afterthought because it was right there.
Oh yeah. I mean, journaling is so powerful. Like if you do it and do it consistently, like if I look back at some of my old journals, I'm like, well, it's interesting to see the history of yourself, like how you thought and like what was important to you in the moment. Like I look back sometimes, I'll just pull just a random one off my shelf. I'm like, what was going on? Like, what was I thinking at the time?
No, I was just reading some entries that I had from, I guess it would have been the end of April 2020 at the start of the pandemic.
Oh, gosh.
And just, watching the world in a state of confusion for those couple months. Just like, and to see and to read not only the confusion that I had in my head, but there was some fear I had coming out. Like, what are we going to normalize again? Are we going to, and that's only, 4 years ago.
Yeah. Right.
And my mind was in a completely different place.
I mean, my mind was in the darkest place it ever was during the pandemic. Like it was just, I felt like rock bottom. I think the second podcast you ever did with me was in the middle of that. Yeah, it was. Because we did the one in July, and then we were the first one
back
in the other room.
Same room. Did you
No, remember you were in the one room, I was in the other room. We did it over Zoom, but I was down there with you.
That's right. And then you came.
It was
back
like our we are doing remote
a month later. You came back too.
Yeah,
you came back quickly, and you were in the same room.
Yeah, that's why I wrote that thing on Facebook that people went crazy over. That one long post I made. Because it was just my thoughts, and it got like a million comments and people just debating over it. It was wild. That's when I came back.
But that's really healthy though. When you think about it, there was some. I hope there was some good human interaction stuff that came out of that era.
There was some people. There was. I look back at that post. Like there was no one being harmful or hurtful. It was people were actually debating, and the whole post was about like, look. None of us know what's going on unless you're an epidemiologist. Shut the fuck up. Unless you're a constitutional scholar, shut the fuck up.
Right.
It was like everybody and their mother all of a sudden knew everything. I remember seeing people that I went to school with. I'm like, all you've ever done on Facebook is post like dick jokes, and now all of a sudden you know about the Constitution. I'm like, I'm a lawyer. I don't even know about the Constitution like this, but all of a sudden you are the constitutional scholar. Not something like we've lost our mind. We've lost our mind collectively. And the whole point of that post was,
I remember,
stay in your lane.
I remember.
None of us know what's going on. Like you can't have doctors telling other doctors they're wrong because they disagree. Differing opinions,
right?
Like that's the whole point of human nature.
I would think
there's not one right or wrong answer.
Supposed to be built on.
Correct. Right? Yes, but it was like just stay in your lanes. I remember seeing people post. There were so many people I just unfollowed and unfriended because I'm like, I just can't anymore. I can't. Like it drove me crazy.
Yeah, I remember that Discord, and I remember Tiger King.
Tiger King. Time I'll never get back. I watched the whole thing.
I feel the same way.
I watched the whole thing.
My wife convinced me to watch that whole thing too, and I just was like, there's got to be something else going on here.
When I look back, because I'm not one to waste time. And that was what, like 10 or 12 episodes?
I think, yeah.
I'm like, I wasted at least 10 hours watching some random dude in Myrtle Beach own tigers that may or may not have killed whatever Carol Baskin's husband or whoever killed Carol. I don't know what the story was about, but I couldn't stop. I'm like, this is a train wreck. Why am I watching this? Like, why am I watching this dude that has cut off sleeves?
Think about that. It was the mini series that our society needed at the time. At the time that it needed it.
It was the best distraction because none of us knew what was going on. People were just like losing their minds, and and watching that, I was like, life isn't so bad. Like when you saw that, I'm like, okay, I don't have it so bad. I'm okay. Like I'm good. Like I'm in my house. I'm good. I don't have tigers around. I'm good. But that's what it was. That's a good point. It was a needed distraction. But I remember when I watched it, and I remember watching the last episode. I still remember I was like laying on my living room floor, and I'm like,
how it ended.
I don't either. That's the thing I don't remember. I remember getting up saying like, I'm never gonna get this back. I'm not sure I just watched, but I literally watched it to the end. I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with me? But it was one of those train wrecks where you can't look away.
Yeah,
and you had to see it. I had to see it through.
We lost our mind collectively. I still look back at that period, and I still have a hard time believing it all happened.
I'm really flabbergasted by it. When I look back, like the grocery store arrows, and I still remember walking down the wrong one, and people looking at me like I was gonna kill people. I'm thinking to myself, I'm in Market District in Robinson, trying to find fucking rice. And I'm looked at like I'm a serial killer because the arrows are pointing this way. I'm walking this way because the rice was literally right at the end of the aisle. I don't want to have to go all the way down. And I'm like, that's just inefficient. I'm an efficiency person. But I remember people standing there looking at me like, oh my, like, how could you possibly, like, you heartless bastard. I'm thinking
you're gonna kill me.
I'm like, I just want the minute rice, literally right here. I can just reach around, like stay down there. We're good. But that's what it was.
Everybody was aggrieved.
Everybody.
Yeah.
I remember Matt telling me like when he would run in Shady Side, he's like, people would get so mad, like he didn't have a mask on outside.
Oh my God. Yeah. I used to the Montour Trail, and I was just walking. Sorry, Matt, I'm not running anywhere. But I was just walking and trying to get my health together, and I'm not wearing a mask outside.
Yeah.
I never wear a mask outside. I won't wear a mask. I'm by myself.
Right.
There are people that are like hiding behind trees.
That happened to, hiking. Hiding behind a tree. Like, ran behind a tree when I was coming on a hiking trail.
I was waving at him.
I'm like, am I a leper? Like,
hello.
Yeah. Like,
I see you.
Did. But then you can go to West Virginia. I remember when West Virginia opened up, my buddy Matt and I, it's like, dude, freedom. Let's go. I had just got my convertible. Like, I picked him up. We went, opened the top, went and had margaritas and tacos at like 2:00 on a Tuesday. I'm like, fuck yes. Like, freedom. It was freedom. But it was like right across the state line. Make that make sense.
Well, the coronavirus didn't cross borders.
It didn't cross restaurants, apparently. It was the stupidest.
Well, we created indoor spaces outside so we could eat.
Yeah. I just remember the one meme. It's like, you can't eat indoors unless indoors is outdoors. Because I remember like the bottle shops. It was like they built literally like a restaurant in the parking lot with those big enclosures that you have like at weddings. And it's like, that was okay. Like, we're still all in an enclosed space. Like, I didn't really give a shit.
Or you had to wear your mask until you got to your table. And then once you sat down, then to eat, naturally, you take your mask off. Like somehow there's a delineation between like the 2 feet over here when I was walking to my table compared to the 2 feet where I'm sitting now next to people.
It was the stupidest time of our life. I still remember going to the airport. Like, we were flying to Florida, and I saw a person with a helmet on. Like one of the glass helmets on. They literally had, I'm not even joking, man. They had like a Louis Vuitton mask on, goggles, and like, it wasn't the helmet, like the whole face shield, but it was kind of like came back here, and I remember just walking. I think we were connecting through Chicago. I remember I'm like, oh my God. Like, this is a time of our life we'll never forget.
So I went to Walmart, which is a place I rarely ever go. I went there because I think my wife told me to pick up something. I'm like, okay. So I got my mask. I put my mask on and go in there. There is a lady walking around the shopping cart, and she had a Kotex pad with a rubber band around her mouth. The Kotex pad was, I can call them Kotexes, Playtex, sanitary napkins.
Feminine products.
It was just like, boom, with a rubber band. With a rubber band.
Why?
That was her mask. She thought that was like thick and probably safe, and it was a Kotex pad. I just stared at her like, that's something you just don't see every day. Yeah, that's a thing. I saw people with like breathing apparatuses, goggles, underwater breathing apparatuses.
And we lost our mind during that period. And again, I was always one to like, okay, I'm for the greater good. Like, at first, I'm like, okay, some things, maybe we should do something. But when people started washing their groceries, I still remember my friend Ashley, like, it's a toilet paper shortage. Her friend was like a regional manager, like at CVS or something. She had toilet paper. I literally met her at LA Fitness's parking lot to buy toilet paper off her. I'm like, this is like a fucking drug deal. Like, I'm literally meeting her in a parking lot to get toilet paper.
Best ever.
And I'm thinking to myself,
best ever.
What is happening? What is happening?
Best ever.
Because I didn't think, like, I'm like, how are we gonna run out of toilet paper?
So what happens if this happens again?
This has never happened again. In our lifetime, I can tell you right now why. We won't put up with it again. Because I think whatever political affiliation you fall on, I think most of us that have half a brain know we were bullshitted too.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe not fully.
It sure seems that way.
But we know that it wasn't truly honest.
It wasn't as presented.
Correct. So I think if they try and pull this shit again, people will be like, nope, not doing it. Not doing it. Our whole generation will have to die off before they can do it again. I mean, think about it. Spanish flu.
Every 100 years.
Every 100 years. Generations die off. Boom, we'll do it again. It'll happen again. Because I can tell you right now, I won't do it.
I can't take me to Tiger King.
I mean, I could maybe take a Tiger King.
Tiger King 2. All right, buddy.
Yes. Won't be here next week, so I'm on vacation. So
look at this guy.
So
next week, we're taking a week off.
Yeah, it's vacation week.
Okay. Yeah. See, he goes on vacation. I go to work. How's this work? Well, all right, friends.
You're radio DJ.
We're out. Pickle Man Mick.